Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast. Here with your hosts, Jacob Smedley,
Sam Betts,
Justin Reedhammer,
and Nathan Romanoff.
Our topics today include the MLB postseason is set. We have a breakdown with our very own Sam Betts giving us the very latest, and the NFL season is underway through 4 or 5 weeks so far. Starting that 5th week, we're going to give you a breakdown of some surprising teams that we think surprising a lot of people so far this season. But first, Sam Betts. We're into the postseason. We've officially made it to postseason baseball, Sam. The wild card rounds have already finished, and where do things stand as the divisional rounds get started?
Well, Jake, we've experienced a little bit of disappointment already, but we'll get to that later.
It's a 5-game series.
I really hope it is a 5-game series because I don't know if we need it. We need a 5-game series. But right now, kind of as we look at it, we've already, like you said, we've already gotten past the wild card. So we'll go back to that. So the Royals, if we go to the Royals and Orioles, the Royals kind of swept the Orioles there in 2 games out of the 3-game wild card section. Really, like the Orioles, not a lot of offense really coming from them. Corbin Burns, I know that that first game he pitched a gem. Like he pitched really well for them, and I think there was a stat that was connected to Corbin Burns. It was like one of the first pitchers for the Orioles to go like 8 innings in like a postseason like game, and there was just no offense to back him up, that masterful pitching for them. The Royals were able to take that game 1, and then they were able to easily take game 2. They kept their throne and they destroyed the bird. The Orioles little promo before the wild card did not age well at all.
Yeah, I think that was a very interesting series in the wild card, Sam. I mean, talk about the AL Central for a second. The Royals, the Guardians, the Tigers, who we'll get to in a second, all playing well. But yeah, just another very disappointing year for the Orioles, in a year that they started out so strong. They were leading the division through the first half. The second half, really middle of the season, the Yankees really kind of took over. And then late in the season, it was more of a battle for the wild card. But just disappointing from the offense. Adley Rutschman, a down year, almost a kind of a sophomore slump for him. Second, third season, Gunnar Henderson he got outperformed by really the other best shortstop, if you will, in the American League, and Bobby Witt Jr., and we'll see how far the Royals can go here. But I guess looking at for the Orioles, another disappointing, and I go back to that trade deadline, Sam. I mean, they brought in Eloy Jimenez, they brought in Zach Eflin, who pitched well in game 2, but where else did they add? Where else did they add to this young core? They didn't do enough. They tried to play around the margins, and you gotta go all in if you want to make it past the wild card, make it deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree, Jake. I mean, this team has a really good young core right now, like Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Ryan Mountcastle, Colton Cowser. Like those guys, like they have a pretty good core to go around, but it just didn't work out this year. And you also mentioned that, like the trade deadline, they went in and got 2 relievers, but I mean, Sir Anthony Dominguez pitched a third of an inning in game 1, but that's not going to help your offense. Gregory Soto and Sir Anthony Dominguez both pitched in the second game too, but you didn't have any offense. You had 11 hits and 1 run. Like, I mean, obviously, if you look at the Royals, they only had 3 runs combined, like for that series, but it was enough to get the job done. If you're not producing runs, like you're not gonna win. Like you could pitch, like I said, Corbin Burns pitched masterfully. Zach Eflin pitched really well. It just wasn't enough for them. If we go to the other side of this wild card for the AL, we got the Tigers and the Astros. The Tigers also getting a sweep of the Astros, which was I was very surprised by that. The Astros started off very slow in the beginning of the season. I personally thought they weren't even going to make the playoffs this year. I was proven wrong. Still, the Tigers team just rode the hot hand. I mean, what were they, Jake? Like 17-9 in like September or something like that?
Incredible. They were, I think, eight games out of a playoff spot in August, I believe. Incredible stuff. Yeah.
So, I mean, this Tigers team just came back and played really well. And guys like Matt Vierling, Parker Meadows, I was going to say his brother Austin, but Riley Green, Colt Keith, Spencer Torkelson even kind of coming in there, having a little bit of slump earlier. Those guys kind of helped really power their offense. First game, in the first game, which I'm looking for right now, yeah, in the first game they won 3-1, and then second game 5-2. So I mean, they had a pretty good Tigers had a pretty good lead kind of going out here, and defeating like the veteran Astros.
Yeah, I thought it was a very good series for the Tigers, and you see this kind of almost the copy of the Rays strategy we've seen in the postseason. They have that dominant starter in Tarek Skubal, those Rays teams the past few seasons with that Tyler Glass now-esque ace pitcher that goes out, dominates, very low scoring. They're not gonna overpower you too much. Of course, Parker Meadows really bursting on the scene. Riley Green, for our old friend Matt Vierling in the middle of that lineup as well. Matty V with some big hits. But, I mean, the second game, the bullpen game, everyone stepping up, doing their role. Of course, we're recording this on Saturday, falling to the Guardians in this first game, and another one of those kind of bullpen games where the Guardians just really jumped on them from the get-go. But this Tigers team, the Gritty Tigers, as they've gone by really the past month or so, it's been fun to watch, and super excited to see where this goes, Sam. But for the Astros, on the flip side, I think it's the end of an era. Bregman is coming up on free agency. How much money they can give to him. Justin Verlander was left off of the wild card roster, which was very kind of telling of where the team thinks that he's at. It's going to be, I think, a very monumental offseason for this Astros team, that they've got these old veterans, but what are they going to do with them?
Yeah, Jake. I mean, this team has seen a lot of success the past couple of years, making it to multiple ALCSs, making it to multiple World Series, winning a lot of these World Series in the past couple of years too. They still have a pretty good, still like good younger core with guys like Kyle Tucker, Jordan Alvarez, Yanir Diaz, who's kind of coming up as their like main catcher right now. Jeremy Pena. They still have a pretty good core, but like you said, they're losing kind of like that veteran presence of Bregman looking. It doesn't seem like he might come back. And from a lot of what I've seen, it seems like the Astros are gonna move on from him. I don't know how much longer Jose Altuve has on his contract or when he becomes a free agent, but that's another possibility they have to think. Jose Altuve has been a part of this team for probably going on like 13, 14 years now. Are they going to be willing to move on from his contract and still keep the younger core and distribute that money somewhere else? That's something that the Astros are going to have to think about in the next couple of years, especially if they want to maintain this kind of dynasty that they're creating right now. If we want to move on, we can go to the NL wild card. Looking kind of at the Braves and the Padres, another sweep. We had three clean sweeps here for this wild card this year, and the Padres kind of winning handily in Game One, going 4-0 against the Braves, and the Braves being in a playoff picture recently, coming off the World Series in the past 3 years, but dealing with a lot of injuries. I know Ozzie Albies was missed time for a bit. Austin Riley missed time for a bit. Ronald Acuna Jr. tearing his ACL in the middle of the year again. A lot of big hits to this team. This team still fought pretty well to kind of keep that wild card spot and get into the playoffs. But in the end, it just wasn't enough against these hot Padres. And I mean, you're looking at a Padres team who's on fire right now. Luis Arias has been a name that stands out. A guy who's just able to get on base and is just able to hit the ball for contact. A big resemblance of Tony Gwynn, and that might be a little bit
That's a high pedestal there,
might be a
Sam.
little
That's
bit
a high.
extreme to compare to the Hall of Famer, but I mean the way this guy's just able to hit the ball and just get on base is very Tony Gwynn esque, as I'll put it. But also Fernando Tatis, Jurickson Profar has broken out this year after being a 10-year veteran, finally kind of coming into his own and really kind of keep getting a hold on that star S power that everyone's seen and is now seeing and believing. Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill, and one of the hot young rookies right now, and he's been dominating as well. No, this Padres team just kind of has been another team on fire, and they were kind of the Braves almost had them on the ropes here after they scored. The Padres scored 5 runs. The Braves almost did come back, but just wasn't enough to kind of take out this Padres team as the Padres go to face the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think, of course, looking at the series. Before that, though, Sam, there was the three-way tie in the NL wildcard. I wanted to get your thoughts because there was that doubleheader played between the Mets and the Braves this past Monday now, where the Mets, it was a split. Both teams had to win to get in because of Hurricane Helene that forced them to play back. Of course, there was a lot of backlash there about moving the games back. Both teams ended up getting in, the Mets in dramatic fashion. We'll get to them in a second, but I mean, there was the whole thing where it looked like Chris Sale was going to pitch in game number 2. He did not, with back spasms, did not even make the trip out to San Diego, just adding on to that injury luck. But with the Braves, it was that kind of season. It just felt up and down, the injuries, just blow after blow. When you're talking about Riley, Acuna, then Sale at the very end, really a gut punch to finish everything off. I mean, Strider, this team is going to be one of the best in baseball, I think, next year and for years to come. Just absolutely terrible injury luck to their best players.
Yeah, Jake, and I mean this team, they have the winning formula. And they've already shown that winning formula in 2021 after winning the World Series. It's just going to be whether they can just keep all the pieces of the formula where they're supposed to be. It seems that a couple of them have just kind of fallen out of place, unfortunately, and that happens with baseball. It's 162 games. Sometimes you're just going to have some really bad injuries, but I mean, for the Braves to even get to the playoffs with the amount of kind of just blows, kind of back to things going on, still being able to make the playoffs. I mean, like I said, they have the parts to get there. It's just whether they can keep them together to just keep going far enough. And we know baseball's a grind, but I mean, it's the person or the team who's going to last the most and who has the pieces to get to that World Series.
Yeah, and before we move on quick, I just thought about this, Sam, but the top 3, I know Max Fried might be a free agent, but you're talking about Strider coming back, Chris Sale, who most likely to all accounts is going to take home the Cy Young. Of course, there's injury. I mean, he was with Zach Wheeler back and forth, but Spencer Schwellenbach as well as your number 3-4 starter. They had him pitch in game 1 to try and get a victory. He was phenomenal as a rookie. I'm just saying the Braves are going to be really good next season if everyone's healthy.
Oh, definitely. I don't think there's any doubt in that, Jake. If we go to the last wild card, now we'll go to the Mets, who are the bane of my existence right now. They played the Brewers, and this was actually not a sweep. This was the only non-sweep in the wild card spot. If we go to the first game, the Mets won 8-4. Now, you would have thought that they would have kind of swept after this game, but no. The Brewers had something else to say, and they won 5-3. Now, if we go to Game 3 of this wild card, for just a moment, it looked like the Brewers were going to win. They were up 2-0. I believe they had back-to-back home runs.
Jake Bauers, Sal Frelick, yep.
Mm-hmm. And then you bring Devin Williams in the guy who's supposed to shut it down, the guy who's a closer. I believe who was 20. I think he was 2020 Rookie of the Year, if I'm not mistaken. He's been a
What a
guy.
pull! What a pull, Sam. 2020 Rookie of the Year. Wow, what a pull!
Hey, hey. I'm just spitting facts right now. No, this is a guy who's had some ups and downs, but he's been a solid pitcher. He's been a solid reliever in the NL. And then you have Pete Alonso come up. I believe he threw a changeup like outside corner of the plate, and Pete Alonso just took that ball for a ride for a 3-run home run. And then Starling Marte just put the cherry on top by getting an RBI single, and the Mets are in.
Well, I will save Sam from grinding his teeth even more, as folks that cannot see is just fuming, just describing the end of that game. But he fell behind, too, Pete Alonso, which you can't do to a power hitter like that, right over the heart of the plate. But, I mean, want to add in, too, it seems like he was tipping some pitches. I don't know. I did see a breakdown where there was some different grips going on. The great former MLB pitcher Dallas Braden, now athletics commentator, with an excellent breakdown as well, with the different grips that he had in his glove for the fastball, for the changeup, which, I mean, just gut wrenching for Brewers fans. Game on the line, your all-star, who did have an injury throughout the season, missed over half the season with that injury, and comes back, was really dominant the past month of the season, but just another heartbreak for Milwaukee fans. It just seems like year after year they can't break through with that wild card NLDS. They just cannot get through, like another team we're familiar with in Philadelphia. Not even talking about the baseball team, but yeah, but it just what a run for the Mets. And right now, again, we're doing this after the Game 1 victory for the Mets over the Phillies, and it will be more, of course, when the games will be done after we're finished here, but for multiple games. But I mean, this is I saw it when the oh my God, the Jose Iglesias. I'm like, this is dancing on my own right here. I have seen this movie before. The team rallies around a song. They're a wild card team that no one believes should make it. They get in, they fight their way, they get in on one of the last days, and they ride a high that, you can't really replicate. And of course, not this going to all the teams here. Of course, there's been so much conversation about these buys from, the Braves last year, the Dodgers, and to just kind of finish up this soliloquy for myself. This Mets team just riding the high, and they are carrying this momentum through every round right now.
Yeah, Jake. Well, I bet it also helps when you have a giant purple blob that's backing up your team as well. So.
The Legend of Grimace, Sam. The Legend of Grimace.
Yeah, he has his own personal seat there in City Field too.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, he can just watch the madness unfold as well. Yeah. So kind of looking at the playoff picture right now, as we've mentioned before, the Mets are playing the Phillies, who are the two. The Phillies are the 2 seed right now. In the NLDS, we also have the Padres playing the Dodgers. The Tigers, as we mentioned before, lost already to the Guardians in the ALDS, and then also you have the Royals against the Yankees, who the Royals have lost to them as well. So that's our playoff picture right now.
Prediction, Sam? What are you thinking? Moving forward right now. Hands up. Sam is perplexed. I'll give mine too. I'll give mine.
You know what, Jake? I would love to see the Phillies go to the World Series, but to be honest, the way they're playing, I don't even know if they can. So, you know what? I'm going to go with the Phillies. I'm saying they're going to the World Series. I'm going to say they go against the Yankees. We're going to have a revisit of 2009, and I think the Phillies are going to break our hearts, and they're going to lose in 6 games.
Wait, hold on, Sam. Now, you just skipped right to the World Series, my friend. Dodgers, Padres, Guardians, Tigers. We gonna just predict straight through the World Series here?
Okay, well, I think the Phillies do. I think the Phillies edge out the Dodgers in 7 games. I think it's going to be close. I think that Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani are going to give the Phillies a run for their money, but the Phillies are going to miraculously pull it off because they're going to start playing Dancing on My Own again, and that'll give them the superpowers to. I'm kind of talking in tongues right now, but yeah, we'll go with that. If I'm gonna go realistic, I do think the Guardians do take out the Tigers. I really do like this Guardians team. I love Josh Naylor. I think he's a really good first baseman. Jose Ramirez is awesome. The pitching, I'm not like as high on. I don't like Tyler Bibby's really good, but other than that, like I'm not like
I
really.
mean, they just got to get to the bullpen. Their bullpen is insane, Sam. You just got to get to the bullpen.
Yeah, I'm not sold on the Guardians pitching, but I feel like their offense is gonna be their driving factor is just gonna be so good that they're just gonna be able to score a lot. I think the Yankees are gonna single-handedly take down the Royals. I think that the Royals are gonna. I think this is a really good starting point for the Royals, like kind of coming back, winning the World Series in 2015. Really haven't seen them make a deep playoff run since then. I think this is a really good starting point for the Royals, especially for Bobby Witt Jr., who's going to be the leader of this team and is going to be the main franchise player so far. They also have some, I think, kind of Salvador Perez as he's aging, like kind of one of that last star from that World Series team. I think MJ Melendez is going to be really good. Vinny Pasquantino, I think if he can stay healthy, he's had a couple injury concerns the past couple of years. I think if he stays healthy, he's going to be a great first baseman. I like this Royals team. I think they're just really young, and I don't think they have that experience yet. They're really good players. I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be really good, like I said. Cole Ragans too he's going to be a really good weapon for them. Starting pitcher, he was a steal for them, really from the one trade deadline. But I just don't think they're ready yet to take on like a big playoff push. I think the Yankees are going to take them.
So let me get this straight. So Yankees beat Royals, Guardians over Tigers, Yankees beat Guardians, and then it's Phillies, Dodgers, Phillies over Dodgers, and then Phillies over Yankees. Just wanted to make sure
in a perfect world, yes, Jake.
Okay. All right, just want to make
let
sure.
Sam have his little fantasy.
I will.
Let me have this. Let me have this.
I will.
One moment
I
of
will
joy
let you
that I
have
can
it,
hold
Sam.
on to.
Will you have that for long? I don't think so.
Probably
but
not.
I'll let you have that. Nate, do you want to give yours? I kind of have mine here.
Obviously, I won't go as in depth there as Sam did. Just based on what I've seen, what I've watched, I hate it, but I'm just gonna be a realist. I think the Mets are gonna take out the Phillies. The Mets have been riding that momentum, kind of giving me the 2022 Phillies vibes right now. Honestly, I honestly think they're gonna move on. I take the Dodgers over the Padres. The Dodgers just stacked. I mean, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. Come on, I mean, they just have too much star power there. I can't see them losing to the Padres early in the postseason, so I think they'll move on. We'll go over then to the AL. The Guardians played well all year, been a pretty consistent team. The Tigers made a late season push, but I don't think they have enough to beat the Guardians, so I'll go Guardians. And then like Sam said, kind of with the Royals and the Yankees, Royals are just a very young team. I don't think anybody expected them to be here this year, where they're at. So, and the Yankees, on the other hand, very experienced roster and one of the best in the league. So I'll take the Yankees. And then when it comes down to it, I think the Dodgers will edge the Mets on the NL side of things. I think the Mets' magic will come to an end there. And then in the AL, I'm going to go Yankees. I think that'll be a good series. I think it might go 7, but I think it'll be Yankees-Dodgers final. And this will be a biased pick. I'll admit it. I'm just going to go Dodgers because, I'm sick of New York. So I'll go Dodgers to win it all this year.
Dodgers to win it all. Phillies. I'm taking a different approach. I agree with, I think the Mets right now, they have that feel to them. They have that energy that, the Phillies just are not matching at this point. I say the Mets win this series, as you guys mentioned, as much as it pains to say. I'm going to go with the Padres over the Dodgers. I know the Dodgers right now, of course, we were recording Saturday night. They're up. It's the game's still going on. They're up too. But I like this Padres team, and the Dodgers haven't proven to me that they can get through to the next round. They haven't made it deep in the playoffs since the COVID year. So until they prove that, I'm going with the Padres. I'm going with Tatis. I'm going with Machado. Sam, you listed the names out earlier, Arise, but I like that pitching staff too, with Cease, with that bullpen that they have. I think that they can bounce back. They've beaten the Dodgers before. I'm going to go Padres Mets. In the AL, I agree with you guys. I'm going with that chalk pick with the Yankees, with the Guardians. I think the other AL Central magic comes to an end. I have the Padres going to the World Series. I think they take down the Mets. I think that's going to be a great battle that I think might go 6-7 games. Padres in the NL against, is it the Yankees' year? Can they beat the Guardians with that great bullpen pitching that they have? Their starters, as you mentioned, Sam, questionable. I think it is with Soto, with Judge. Their pitching kind of worries me with their bullpen, the Yankees. I think they make it through. I think it's Yankees-Padres. And I think it's the Padres' year. I don't know if I'm drinking the Kool-Aid too much. I know the Mets are riding that high, but the Padres, they added with Arise. They added with Cease at the trade deadline. They bolstered up their bullpen in the back end. I mean, they got to the NLCS 2 years ago against the Phillies. I think this is the year that they will break through, beat the Dodgers again. That's where I'm at. Any other thoughts, Sam, on baseball? We gave our predictions or anything else? Or let's go. Let's go with these predictions, right?
Oh no, I predict the Phillies are gonna break my heart, as they usually do. But other than that, Jake, no.
That prediction will probably live true. I would say 95 to 100% of the time. All right. We're going from heartbreak to some heartbreakers. What would you say? Teams that are surprising everyone in the National Football League, that are breaking hearts to teams that should be good, right? Surprising teams. Justin got some teams on the rise. I know I have one in mind that I'm sure you're going to mention. Take it away, Justin.
Oh, Jacob, as you mentioned, these teams are surprising everybody. Sometimes they're breaking hearts, other times they're getting their hearts broken, but we'll cover them all here, and I'm going to start somewhere close to home for you Phillies fans. Peter's not here, so he won't get mad at me saying this, but I'm going to talk about, right away, the Washington Commanders. Let's start there, guys. Yeah, this is a team that I think all of us either agreed were second to last or last in the division. I'm pretty sure if you weren't there for the podcast a month ago, but
now I did talk about Jaden Daniels.
You did
talk about Jaden Daniels.
You did mention him, and the kid is doing well. He's doing well for himself. The Commanders right now 3-1. They are leading the division 3-1. Jaden Daniels has 87% completion percentage, highest in the NFL currently. Highest for any rookie quarterback ever. He's not lighting up the scoreboard, doesn't have much in the way of touchdowns, but he's protecting the football, not weighing much of turnovers either. So right now he's playing pretty good ball, and if this continues, I don't see why the Commanders can't win the division.
Win the division, or let alone just make the playoffs, which they haven't done in a few years. But yeah, win the division. The sky's the limit. I mean, I'm not going to be one to call, and brag about calling Jaden Daniels, But, I mean, I didn't see this coming, certainly. But I was talking to a friend of mine. Is the number 2 pick the pick in the draft now? With Stroud, with Daniels, the way they're performing. It's remarkable what he's doing, not only with his legs, but that pass against the Bengals. I'm still envisioning that to McLaurin to win the game. I mean, just remarkable what he's doing. But I think what goes unsung here is Cliff Kingsbury, the new offensive coordinator, the redemption game against Arizona. That locker room has bought in to new head coach Dan Quinn, and it's not as painful as seeing the Cowboys do great. I can tell you that for sure. But dang, another good quarterback in this division that's taken over the scene.
Like you guys said, he's been incredible, very impressive to start this year. You said we couldn't have predicted he'd be this good this early, and the offense is cooking. Like you said, Cliff Kingsbury has them performing really well, and their defense is holding up too, playing pretty good ball. So they're a team to watch out for, especially when you consider how other teams in that division have started this season. Subpar from both the Eagles and the Cowboys. The Commanders are right in the thick of it right now.
Yeah, they've looked really good. Honestly, they're one of my favorite teams to watch at the moment. They're playing good football. I can't guarantee their success is going to continue, but for the first month of the year, I'm liking what they got going. But let's move over to a different team here. One of the only, or maybe the only, undefeated team in the NFL currently. They play tomorrow morning, the Minnesota Vikings. They have been something else, I'll tell you that much.
Sam Darnold supremacy. Supremacy.
I think I even
Wow.
said, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I even said during the last episode that they were going to be the worst team in the league. Well, that's not the case. They have been unbelievable with Sam Darnold coming into his own. He has been something unreal and right now. I mean, he has one of the highest passer ratings in the NFL, most touchdowns currently for passing, and a lot of that is, of course, attributed to the having a guy like Justin Jefferson. But I mean, come on, the rest of the team is not playing half bad either.
Yeah, and when you talk about, I like the offense, Sam Darnold, but I think the unsung hero, the defense of this team. They held the Texans and all their weapons to 7 points a few weeks ago. That's remarkable. Of course, they had the game against the Packers a week ago where it was really down to the wire, and they had that game in hand, it felt like, for half of it. But it's just remarkable. Sam Darnold going on this journey and seeing the funny videos of the revenge game against the Jets in London against his former squad where he was seeing ghosts with that squad. Now he's seeing touchdowns on top of touchdowns. But it's just great to see him, and it brings that question forward. I know this is way down the line, an entire season ahead of us, but they drafted J.J. McCarthy 10th overall to potentially develop him into a starter, not knowing Sam Darnold was going to play this well. How long can he keep it up? And then at the end of the season, where do you go? So sky's the limit for this Vikings team.
The Vikings are playing with house money right now. They've had a terrific start. Sam Darnold, as we've discussed, I mean, he's playing like the quarterback the Jets drafted him to be all those years ago when he got drafted. I don't remember what year it was at this point.
2018.
2018, there you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can't forget that draft.
Some of us can't. Others can. But still, he's playing fantastic. And to see him, really come into his own here with the Vikings, it's cool to see like a redemption arc like that for a guy like Sam Darnold. And their defense, has been playing spectacular too. They lost one of their best players, Hunter. I forget his first name, but he went to the Texans.
Hunter, I think? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He went to the Texans this offseason. Hasn't seemed to affect them much. So both sides of the ball looking great early on. We'll see if they can continue, but right now, undefeated. Couldn't ask for a better start up in Minnesota.
Now, I just want to ask a question quick. Like, right now, do you consider like Sam Darnold kind of like still like that bridge quarterback where like the Minnesota Vikings could kind of like, if he does really well, could they like move on from him and still take on like JJ McCarthy? Or do you think like the Vikings could like, could you see the Vikings like making him like, this is our guy, like this is our starter, and then kind of JJ McCarthy kind of takes on like a Michael Penix Jr. like type situation?
I was gonna mention the Kirk Cousins situation because I think you could have something similar there where maybe they play out a contract with Sam Darnold, they build up JJ McCarthy underneath of that, and then they do like a Jordan Love or a Michael Penix Jr. situation. But at the same time, they could use him for value. They could trade him. They could trade McCarthy if they want to. The sky's the limit really here for them. They can honestly, they're doing what every NFL team should do. They're gathering options, and they have plenty of them to choose from once the time comes.
And I think something else to note is the sample size. I know it's 4 games. I know these are all surprise teams. I think my barometer is like week 8, week 9. If they're like 7-1, 6-2, and it's like he is still throwing the crap out of the ball, I'm like, yeah, I'd go for it. Then you're having those tough conversations. It is 4 weeks though. Teams will probably start to get more and more film on him as a starter, what the Vikings are going to run. But yeah, for me it's a sample size thing. But yeah, like Justin mentioned, there's so many options that they could go with.
Yeah, so I want to turn to more of not a team right now, but let's talk about a division that was kind of surprising so far. I'm talking about the NFC South. This is a division that had, in the first 2 weeks, the best offense in the NFL with the New Orleans Saints. They have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have looked unreal. Baker Mayfield, another quarterback from that same draft, looking really good. And then the Atlanta Falcons, with Kirk Cousins finally coming into his own, that crazy Thursday night football game. And then I don't hate what Carolina's done since switching their quarterback situation too. So honestly, this is a division that I thought, again, would be one of the worst in the NFL. But they've so far through the first month showed up to play.
Yeah, I agree, Justin. I think that Big Kirko Chains is what I think they're calling him down in the ATL. Incredible, and I think, Bijan's still trying to find his way in Atlanta. That defense has had good games, bad games. Of course, the Thursday night thriller, more of a shootout between the two offenses. But, I again don't want to be boastful. I did pick the Falcons to win that division, so I'm hoping that they keep it going. But, yeah, I think the Saints, maybe they can figure it out. I know they're on a I think they're one of the teams on a bye, if I'm not mistaken. Or do they play this week? Anyways, regardless, I think that they've have their ups and their downs, but yeah, great start to the division and should lead to a very tight ending between at least those three teams. Of course, the Panthers are still having trouble. They're still, have the young struggles. They did change Bryce Young out for Andy Dalton. They won that game. But those top three teams, I think, if one gets hot, they could take it over.
Fun division to watch. And Jake, the Saints do play this weekend. They play the Chiefs. Our resident Saints fan, Joseph Gillen, dear friend of ours, reminded me of that. So, yes, they do play. I believe it's Monday Night Football, actually. The primetime matchup. But like you said, fun division to watch. The Falcons, Kirk Cousins is starting to come into his own with this offense, and this team set a franchise record in passing yards this past Thursday with, I believe it was 509. Insane game. Definitely going to be a division to watch down the stretch. It's going to be interesting to see who pulls it out, wins it in the end. But I think you could argue that this division might end up getting two teams in the playoffs, just in the way they're playing.
Yeah, it's been really amazing to see that. I just want to do a quick mention here. We don't actually have to go into depth for this, but I just wanted to say NFC West, most of you guys, actually all of you guys, thought that the Rams would be the second place team in the division here, San Francisco first. I just want to say right now, Seattle is leading the division. I called them second. I think San Francisco will get their act together, so I just wanted to throw that out there, Jacob. You've been
okay.
Yeah, you've been doing it. I'm gonna do it too,
All right, talk your crap, Justin. Talk your stuff.
We'll get to more of that later, but let's talk about a team that other people. We're gonna switch over to the AFC now. Let's talk about a team that a couple other friends are gonna be a little boastful about. I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, these guys, first 3 weeks of the season, undefeated. We thought they were going to be mid at best. They showed up in a different sense, and they a little bit proved us wrong. Not totally, but Justin Fields has been playing quite well, despite what we might say about the opponents they've had against them. I think that they're still NFL teams. It's impressive to see that he's at least winning these games. They took their first loss, of course, last week, but I think that despite that, he is starting to play at a bit more of a NFL-ready level. And I think that they're going to have an interesting decision coming up with Russell Wilson, but props to...
No, they won't.
No, they won't.
That's where I'll be boastful.
He can cook on the bench.
He can cook on the bench. You do not want that man touching the field.
I agree, but I don't know if they do, so we'll see what they end up doing there. But I got to say props to Joey and Cameron, because I have to say I do not believe the Pittsburgh Steelers will be last in their division anymore. I think that honor is reserved for honestly, the Bengals. I mean, they've not looked good this season, and the
Not
Browns are
the
right there too.
Browns.
The
Okay.
Browns are there too. So honestly, but I think the Steelers are destined for at least second place.
Okay. Yeah, we all, I think, we were like, come on, Joey. Come on, kid.
Yeah.
What are we doing? What are we doing here? This was about a month ago. And, yeah, they proved us wrong, at least for now. Again, there's that whole caveat. Who they've played. Again, none of the teams in the division have played any divisional games, so we'll see how they fare against the Ravens. Justin, just throwing the Bengals out like they don't always have slow starts, but I mean 0-3 to start is really rough. It was a close game against the Panthers, but
I think historically there's been one or two teams ever to make the playoffs after a 3-0 start or an 0-3 start. So
yeah, I think I saw the graphic too last week. It's like no team since like the 80s or something. Like it's been a while. Yeah, but the Steelers, it's I think again we see it though. It's gonna have to live and die with that defense. The offense has improved. Justin Fields, he's kind of playing it safe. He's not turning it over as much as he did with Chicago last year. But I don't know how sustainable the offense is. I mean, Najee Harris is in there. Jalen Warren has been out. George Pickens has been kind of up and down. I don't know how sustainable that offense is. But if that defense can kind of keep teams under 20 points in that kind of 14 to 21 point range, it gives them a chance. But going up against some of these elite offenses in the AFC and the whole NFL, I think it's going to be tough to sustain that kind of middle of the pack, below average offense.
Like we said, I'll give kudos where kudos is due. They've had a better start than all of us predicted. And Justin Fields, has surprised me. He's adapted well and he's playing well. He's taking on the new challenge in Pittsburgh and he's playing good football. Kind of where he left off with the Bears last year. Playing good, and I firmly believe that he is and should be their starter. I think he's proven himself over these first 4 games of the season. Russell Wilson, older guy. Hell, the Steelers aren't paying him. The Broncos are. So, you don't have any obligation really to play him from that sense of the matter. So, if I were the Steelers, I would stick with Justin Fields. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And like you said, Jake, if the defense can keep playing lights out and Fields and the offense can produce the way they have, then I don't see why there's any reason the Steelers can't finish second in that division and keep the Tomlin streak alive of finishing above 500.
I mean, before we move on, I just looking at the schedule here. You've got the Raiders coming up this weekend. It's the Cowboys, tough matchup at home. Raiders on the road should be a game that they should be able to win. Jets at home, maybe we can get to them. I don't know where Justin's going with this list. And then the Giants. I mean, those are 3 games that 2-1, 3-0 in that stretch. Cowboys is going to be tough, but you're looking at a team that could have 5, 6, 7 wins within the next 4 weeks. I mean, and then you got the divisional games coming in, but yeah, the schedule isn't too tough for them till like 4 or 5 weeks down the line.
that's true, but then it becomes one of the toughest in the league. So
Yeah.
they got to rack up the wins early and often, because if they don't, look out. But let's move to a team that we've already mentioned here. I'm going to talk about the AFC West, but I'm not talking about the Chiefs. Nobody's surprised that they're winning. I think the most surprising thing about that is the fact that they're barely winning. I'm not going to talk about the Chargers. They're nothing special. The Las Vegas Raiders, though, also not special. What I'm talking about is the Denver Broncos here. I'm talking about Bo Nix. All right. Look, first 2 weeks were a little bit rough. All right. He started out a little rough.
Little rough.
Yeah. You had the rookie growing pains there, but by week 3, he's kind of starting to turn it on a little bit. He's winning some games that you're not supposed to win. I mean, they beat the Jets last week. The game was 10-9. It was a horrible game to watch. I mean, either side.
Classic game.
Sucked.
Yeah, classic AFC East team game.
yeah, really. But at the end of the day, Bo Nix won against Aaron Rodgers, a 4-time MVP. So I gotta say, props to Aaron Rodgers and the Denver Broncos for starting to figure something out here and at least getting a couple of wins early on in the season.
Yeah, props to Aaron Rodgers and the Denver Broncos.
Oh, my bad. Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos.
It happens to the best of us.
It does.
I would like to mention Bo Nix threw for 60 yards that game, but he did have a touchdown.
Got it done when it mattered.
The important stat is interceptions in a game like that. So
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised that they've started off 2-2. I wouldn't expect last week's game to have gone the way it did, but the defense for the Broncos has really shown up these first 4 weeks, played well, and like you said, Justin, Bo Nix, rookie season, all rookies go through that, those growing pains. They have to adapt to the league, but after an 0-2 start, 2 back-to-back wins, and that Week 3 win on the road against Tampa, I don't think anybody saw that coming, and especially the way they did it. I mean, they blew them out, 26-7. So, great start for the Broncos. If you would have told me we'd be 2-2 at this point, I probably would have called you crazy. But hey, here we are, 2-2 in the thick of it in the division. Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised and happy. Although I will say, Bo Nix is not the fantasy boom that you projected him to be.
I said later on in the season, all right?
Later on. Well, yeah, I think, too, what is most impressive about this, 2-1 away from home. Of course, Mile High is you have that advantage, the altitude for the Broncos. We saw that when Peyton Manning was quarterback, and they had that spectacular defense. But doing it on the road for such a young team that has a lot of those young players, it's great for, the coaching staff with Sean Payton and company. It's great for these young players getting these wins. And as we've mentioned, against two teams that, with the talent they have, should be in the playoffs. The Jets are, still kind of muddling around there, 2-2. But the Buccaneers are a team, we just mentioned them in that division, a team that should be in the playoffs by the season's end. So, yeah, great wins for the Broncos, and hopefully they can keep it up and have a good first year under Bo Nix, working through those growing pains.
Yeah, it's been an exciting one to watch there. I hope that the success continues for Denver. But let's talk about the last team that I got slated here. Let's talk about my guys here, the Buffalo Bills.
I knew you were going there. I had to
go there. Had to go there.
We knew it was coming. Before we start, we got to let the listeners know. This Justin texted me 2-3 weeks ago when it was the Bills-Dolphins game, and he's like, "What did I tell you guys? What did I tell you guys about the Bills?" I was like, "You're right. I was feeling myself. You're wrong. Yes, yeah."
It happened in 2020, and it's happening again in 2024. You all pick against them, and they're gonna do it again. It's only 4 weeks in, but the Bills have looked like one of the best teams in the NFL. They stumbled last week against a great running attack.
Stumbled is putting it lightly, to be honest, buddy.
Well, you gotta remember, we got all of our interior linebackers out. We got our nickel corner out. So against a good run team, it's gonna be tough. But we've handled pretty much every other team pretty well. The defense has played much better than expected, and the offense has been really good. Josh Allen has been the MVP through the first 4 weeks of the season. He has put up the numbers, and honestly, no interceptions to this point. I think that's the big number there. So
that is a surprising stat, just based on how he's played throughout his career. I mean, listen, Josh Allen, he's playing great. The offense is playing great. But look at who they've played. Outside of Baltimore, who we know how it went last week, wasn't pretty. They really haven't played anybody. Jacksonville, come on. They're the worst team in the league at this moment in time. Miami, we were all a little higher on Miami, but I think now, as we've seen what's happened with the team, I don't know how to gauge them. And then Arizona, week 1, it was a good game, but it was week 1, the first game of the season. So, I don't know. The Bills, 3-1. I don't think any of us, except for you, Justin, picked them to win the division, I don't believe. So we can all be eating that shoe right now, but not out of the woods yet. You gotta look at last week's game against a team like the Ravens, who is a team that you will see in the playoffs compared to the other teams you've played. Good start, but I think there's some things to improve, or things to look at.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back right to what I talked about at the beginning of the season, where if Josh Allen takes that step, I think they have a chance to win the division and limits the turnovers, and he's done that so far. And really, almost it seems like that this revamped offense with Joe Brady, you saw some kind of sprinkles with it with Stephon Diggs in the fold last season, but you don't have that kind of true number one wide receiver anymore. It's been Khalil Shakur, it's been Keon Coleman, it's been the two tight ends and Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, but it's been more of a gotta run the football with James Cook, gotta set up the play action, gotta utilize Josh Allen's legs when he needs to, which has been kind of great to see. But I'm going to, echo Nate's point a little bit. They have some games coming up. Texans is a start. It will have, of course, you'll have the results of those listening once this is uploaded, but 2, 3-1 teams that, can make the case with both of them, had rough losses against good teams, and this is a statement game for both. But, it's going to come down a lot of youth on that defense, and I'm sure you'll agree, Justin, in those positions, in safety, and around the line, around the linebackers. So see how they pan out. James Cook and Josh Allen have been great offensively. We'll see how this continues the rest of the year, but certainly have staked their claim in that division. No other team has really stood out, and it looks like it's the Bills' division to lose once again.
I do like the point that you're bringing up there. I think that, like I said, it's early. It's only for first 4 weeks of the season. We got to see how it turns out. But as of right now, I think you're right, Jacob. I think it's the Bills' division to lose. They could still lose it. The Jets are hanging around as they do. But I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks what's going to happen.
Yeah, plenty. We'll have to see. You got the Bills, the Steelers, a lot of division winners we did not predict. There is plenty of weeks ahead. We'll, of course, revisit as some of our takes have not aged the best all across the board. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast. Stay tuned for every episode. All these sports in swing. Baseball in the playoffs. Football is in the middle of the season. Stay tuned for all of our episodes. And for the entire crew, thank you for listening to another episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast.